finally, a source of raw, real, and honest information on healthcare issues that matter most. Welcome to BS Free MD. From the latest medical information to how to stay sane as a doctor or a patient, no subject is taboo, no BS is allowed. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Doctors May and Tim Hindmarsh.
All right, so we're back again with Jake Thomas this week, as we were last week.
Yeah, if you didn't listen to last week's episode and you're just clicking on today and you're like, who are these two people talking and what are they talking about? I'm May Hindmarsh. This is Tim Hindmarsh, my husband and co-host of BS Free MD. And we are continuing our story and interview with Jake Thomas, who has an amazing story that he shared last week. And this is the rise of Jake Thomas and all about what he does and his successful coaching program called Life Like Jake. So,
right. Well, and if you
thoughts?
haven't listened to last week and you don't know who we are, stop wasting your life.
Yeah. There you go. You got a vibe for what it's like. But why don't you just sum up a little bit briefly without giving away what last week was about?
Yeah. So he just goes into kind of his life story as far as some difficulties growing up. Went into the Marine Corps for structure, got the structure, loved being a Marine, loved being deployed, was really part of that sheepdog warrior class, had some issues there that derailed his life, felt very purposeless, fell into too much drinking. Then that turned into tremendous amounts of cocaine. And as you can tell, that generally does not end well. Actually ended up getting a very powerful degree from what was at the Fashion Institute of Technology, while snorting a ton of coke, which is pretty amazing. And then just had a epiphany one day that this was not the life he wanted, and then completely changed his life through really understanding kind of his life philosophy, physical training, various diets that he's experimented with, and then taking all of these experiences and putting it into Life Like Jake, which is his coaching program. And we get, very detailed about that. And it really made me think. I had been thinking a lot about this.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff I'd already thought about, but he really put words and actions to a lot of things that we've talked about before. It's just, you just need to listen to it. It's really, really revealing, very powerful information. So without any further ado, here we go. Back.
Part 2.
Yes. To Jake Thomas.
To jump right in, so how long did you said you spent like about a year in outpatient therapy through the VA?
Yep.
Working on that. You didn't want to take any psychiatric kind of medications.
Nope.
No, nothing else like that. Did you finish that program and basically say, I think I'm good. I don't need the coke anymore.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do without Ralph Lauren in my life now?
I still, don't get me wrong, I still had issues. I did relapse a few times, but I was never back where I was, for sure. I moved into real estate, had a great career doing that. I got a lot of fun out of it. I found something I was good at as far as in leveraging my personality, what I like to do as far as in running around and be engaging with people and interacting and getting FaceTime with people and feeling that I could add value this way and providing service. And there's a lot of parallels again with the military that I found actually in real estate. Just the clothes are better and the environments are more appealing.
And you don't get to shoot anybody if they don't buy a house.
I
You don't get to
fucking
take
wish
them
I
out.
could. I fucking wish I could.
Yeah.
I tell you that much. Let me
Hey.
say that again, or put a gun to their head and be like, just trust me, it's for your best interest.
Yeah.
Or just sign here, get it over with. Stop fucking around. No, or it's not that big of a deal. You're making a big deal out of this. This is nothing. Or, oh my God, you were such a big shot and you were telling me how much money you made. And now we're looking at a $1,500 studio apartment because you're really trying to screw, tighten the bolts on this deal. You're not that cool, dude.
We get it. We're selling our house. And after having, 50 or 100 people look at it, I feel like doing that. I'm like, you're not coming in unless you're giving me cash.
Well,
No.
you're in a good position for that. You know, that's a
Yeah.
great place to be.
Anyway, so yeah, how did we get to Life Like Jake and
Yep.
what's
So I started competing in natural bodybuilding and physique like 2017. Also, big
ah
year 2017. A friend of mine in New York, she was a Soul Cycle instructor, was talking about a friend of hers that was competing at the time or getting ready to start prep for a competition. And she's like, Jake, you're already in really good shape. You should do that too. And I was like, okay, like how hard can it be? You know, little did I know. And got into that. And then one day I was shooting a video for a workout with some friends, just kind of messing around. And one of the guys there was like, man, you should try to fitness model. Okay, well, I don't have an agent. I don't know anyone. Well, I do. I have an agent. Okay, cool. Well, sure, dude, hit him up. And the guy was like, man, bring that guy by when y'all finish the video. He's great. I'd love to meet him. And sure enough, went and met this guy. My dad was actually with me at the time. And we're sitting in the office with the agent and like talking about everything. And my father's like, this is so cool. I was like, I know, right? Like get plucked off the street, the storybook, you know, fairy tale story about like how you get found or whatever to model. And that began my like delve into fitness like really hard, as far as like understanding that now I have a new resource or a new asset to be able to utilize and leverage. And then really having to understand nutrition, or at least what I thought I knew about nutrition at the time. But I started really experimenting more. I had already been a vegetarian in the past from having dated a vegetarian. I'd already eaten the standard American diet because that's what I fucking grew up on. I'm from New Orleans. My mother's from Mexico. Like I had a great, rich culinary background. I love to cook. I still love to cook. I cook all my own food cooked for years. But like I grew up cooking. I grew up loving food. So like, people are like, yeah, I love food too. I'm like, I'm from New Orleans. Where are you from? Like, I don't know. You know, it's kind of like
Detroit.
yeah, it's kind of a badge of honor for us, you know. And I started to see these things of like, okay, now I'm working with nutrition and fitness, and I'm understanding the power and the importance of each of these and how these all make me feel. And then I started dating a girl that was a pescatarian and like made me be a pescatarian, and then just different observances. And by be a vegetarian or whatnot, I'm talking for over a year. Not like when someone says, yeah, I was a vegetarian for 3 weeks, like fuck off. Like, no, you know, or like, oh, I did this diet for a month. I'm like, no. So then I started dating a vegan. And that was even another thing. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, okay, let's try it. Again, it's all about civility in the relationship, and that maintain that for sure. Right. So once I started doing pretty well in bodybuilding and natural bodybuilding with these other diets, I was like, man, I should try it as a vegan. And I couldn't find anybody that was doing it at the time. It was a very small group of guys. Number one in the natural circuit, and then also just in vegan in general, because it's hard to get the macronutrients in the ratios that you want them in. As a vegan, because they don't occur naturally as that. So you have to use a lot of supplements and their powders and whatnot, but you can do it. And so I really wanted to do it because people are like, no, you can't do it. I'm like, fuck you, watch, I'm gonna do it. And then again, I was dating the girl at the time, so it was pretty easy to get into that. But I made a great run. I did do it. I had a lot of wins throughout the career of doing that, and have looked back and to kind of draw from that. I was like, man, I can really say that I've experimented long term and have accurate or ample data to pull information from. And so when I was kind of putting the Life Like Jake concept together, when I first started training people, I did not want to have dependency. And my friends, or create dependency. My friends that were trainers at the time and gyms that, I was working out of just to use their spaces, they were like, well, that's not good for business. And I was like, well, I'm not really here for that. I'm here to like heal people and really instill like power and change, not fucking create a conveyor belt so they just keep coming like a hooked fish, And people are like, well, that's not good for scale. And I'm like, I'm not here for the money, either. Like everything about what I was saying was counterintuitive, I guess, to traditional business models. And that's where I started to see my first pushback. But to me, it was like, ooh, we're going the right way here.
Huh.
Yeah, you don't, the old saying, you're over the target when you start taking flack.
Right.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I was like, ooh, I'm striking nerves. Like same thing, the vegan bodybuilding, people like, you can't do it. I was like, oh, definitely doing that. And then like, oh, natural bodybuilding, you can't do it. You're not gonna be able to compete against the IFBB guys. I'm like, oh, definitely doing that. Like everything that there was no. Same thing, like go to FIT, definitely doing that. Going to the Marines, definitely doing that. Like I've always leaned into that, right? To where there's when there is resistance, and I don't mean stupidly or like masochistically, but like that, just like you said, when you're over the target, you're going to find that you're going to feel the flack. And like I just kept feeling it in these certain situations, and my intuition was like, trust your gut, trust your heart on this. And especially with the program, I was like, wouldn't it be better to create freedom for people as opposed to like incarcerate them with what they think they need, as opposed to being able for them to realize that they never needed anything except themselves? Like,
I love it.
and so I started taking things that I'd learned, from the military. I was like, all right, if I sprinkle a little bit of this in, but not too much, I don't want to kill these people. If I take a little bit of this and then like, not too much because I don't want to fucking scare them off. And then, okay, we'll add a little bit of this and then da-da-da-da. And then kind of had a working construct. While at the same time, I don't have a white paper or a one sheet because everybody's different. Everybody deserves different. Treat them all the same by treating them all differently. Treat them all differently by treating them all the same. How do you do that? So through a couple of pillars that I definitely have, but the number one thing that I found to be the absolute definer was the nutrition, because maybe you just came off 10 days of a hip replacement and you can't move. And your first defense is going to be, well, I know you're like big into fitness, Jake, and I can't work out right now. Motherfucker, I know you got to eat. Right. And this can be, I don't care if you're 5 years old or 95 years old, this diet that I prescribe will work for you. And you'll hate me because you can't get away from it. And back to those, the four, not the three, but the four vitals that we need to live as human beings: air, water, food, and sleep. Beating drugs is great. Curing yourself from being a shopaholic or a sex addict or whatever your vice might be. Good for you. It takes a lot to do that. But when you grab one of the four vitals and put a stranglehold on it, oh man, you're gonna see a human being get electrocuted. Right? Like you take sleep away from somebody, what happens? Well, it's pretty obvious. You take water away from somebody, what happens? It's pretty freaking obvious. You can't go that long without it. Either of those two, like, ooh, you're playing with fire real quick. Food, you can go without for a while. Like people don't realize how long. Like right now, I'm on day one of a 7-day fast myself, which eventually I'm going to do double digits because I know it's out there, and it's one of my little mysteries to go after. But like food, we can go for a while. Air, it's probably the most critical one, right? But the food one, when you are told to try to be different and unique, and everything else around you is not like you, it becomes real tough, real fast. And I say that because the power that's there, just like I was telling y'all before we started, the single most effective thing we can do as human beings in regards to our health to have the most profound impact is controlling what we put into our mouths. And that's what I found. That's what my like, oh my God, I found the Arkenstone, Indiana Jones moment of whatnot, the jewel was that it's not an exercise. It's not meditation. It's not in reflex. Like those are all great things. Don't get me wrong. They're all important. They're part of the process. But the foundation and the bedrock is absolutely the nutrition.
I couldn't agree more. And I'd run, I don't know, 10, 12 marathons. Actually pretty good I'm kind of built like a brick is my normal body size. I'm like 5'5", 5'6", and I had to kill myself to get down to 140 pounds when I was racing. Got gigantic legs, kind of the Joe Rogan build. and
May's like, yeah, that's my
yeah,
guy.
it's
a little fire hydrant.
That's my man.
He's a little fire hydrant.
And I should have gone into bodybuilding because it's like Franco Columbo, right? The short guys.
Yeah,
it's easier to look gigantic when you're short. And I still ignored the dietary stuff that I know now, and it bugs me because I think, man, how much faster could I have been in my prime? How much, more of, I mean, I'd run 15 miles and then go windsurf for 4 hours. It was still
He
pretty
acted,
high level.
He acted like he was an ectomorph when he's like an
A
endomorph. And so yeah, he's like, oh, I need a carb load with all this spaghetti, and then I'm gonna run,
and then I
20
do
miles
8 hours
tomorrow.
of activity. But
Anyway.
it's super fascinating. So, what is the diet, or is that proprietary?
No,
Or-
no, it's
or
totally not.
maybe
Totally
it's
not
so
proprietary.
individual. Like, do you believe we've interviewed Anthony Chafee, him,
Love
Plant
him.
Free
Yeah, he's great. Plant Free MD.
He's a great guy. We've had a rheumatologist that has cured himself from autoimmune stuff with full vegetarian-based diet. Although
I'd love to talk with him.
He's
a
functional med doc who believes that some people do better on carnivore and some people don't, and he is an open mind. We've talked to people that just basically like just eat whatever you want, use the macros. We've covered the gamut. And so what do you think? Does it very individual, or is it the one way is a better way? What do you think?
Oh yeah. Great. Now we're getting into the
We opened the can.
Meat. We're getting into the
for
meat of
sure.
it, right?
Open the can.
But before I answer that, I'll tell you I've only run one marathon, and I did it as an experiment while I was a carnivore, because people were saying that I needed carbohydrates and high glycolytic exercise and da 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 da. I was like, well, I'm going to show you I don't, and I'm going to run sub 330 to do it. And they're like, that's pretty bold. No carbs. First marathon. Like, why don't you just finish it? I was like, I'm going to run sub 330. I'm going to do it dry and fasted. So I'll be fasted the day of, and then I'm going to do it dry on the course. So no water during, no intra consumption of foods, gels, nothing. Dry. And I ran 326. And people are like, I'm in this group with a couple other people from the brokerage I used to be with Compass, athlete agents at Compass. And a lot of them are like ultra athletes. Like, they've run multiple ultras, dozen plus marathoners. I mean, these people, I'm like, man, you guys are badass. I've run one, but when they're all telling their stories and like who they are and their credentials, so to speak, and they're like the main guy in the group, he's like, Jake, tell them about your thing with the marathon. I was like, is that why I'm here? Because like y'all's accolades are way cooler than mine. And so here I am listening to all these people. And then when I dropped that on them, they were all like, wait, what? Like, all these people with all their things were like, wait, you did what? Da, 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 da. And like, how'd you do that? I was like, let me tell you. So to the diet. If you were on a deserted island, not together.
Aww, boo.
If you're on a deserted island and you could eat one thing, a single source of sustenance for the rest of your life to survive, not just survive, but to thrive, and to not stress your body, to not duress you, to give you the most amount of macro and micronutrients, amino acids, vitamins, and minerals, one thing. And again, to not duress your body, what would that one thing be?
Well, if it's an island, I think it would be fish.
That's what I'm thinking. I would like to say pineapple, but of course it's not. I think I get
It's
sick of
not
that after a
pineapple.
week. No, it would be fish. I love fish.
Or deserted environment, let's say,
Right.
need not matter.
Right.
You're both correct as far as it would be an animal. It would be an animal-based food or an animal protein and fat, right? So is it a one-size-fits-all diet? Well, my question to the vegetarians or to the vegans, and having been both of those for over a year, is where I'm coming from. First of all, having competed as an athlete, as a professional athlete, is both of those. That's where I'm speaking from. So when people try to throw things at me like, you don't understand, da 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 da, I'm like, I don't know if you've got the fucking resume that I do of doing both of those things, but you might want to open up your ears a little bit instead of just trying to tell me. So breast milk, a miracle of mammalian evolution. That shit ain't vegan. It sure as hell is not plant-based. That is as animal-based as it gets. Why? And what is it? It is, again, back to our deserted island thing. It is a single source of sustenance for a developing, fragile-bodied infant to be able to receive with 100% bioavailability, all those ingredients, immediately gets utilized with minimal processing need on the body, minimal strain, obviously the least amount of duress possible, maximum utilization with minimal discard.
And I'm a big fan of the containers.
Oh my Lord.
I mean, hey, I'm a guy. I second that. I second that. And my eureka moment with that was when I started on Carnivore, and the infrequency of my bowel movements as well as in the volume immediately went down. I was like, wow, this is cool. And I started looking back as a vegan. I was like, I'm having 5 massive bowel movements a day. And I used to think like, well, it's because I'm an athlete and I'm like, my metabolism's so high. And it's like, no, dude, like that is literally all waste. One. And then I thought back to, or when my brother's daughter was born a few years ago, she's going to be 4 in July, who was with yesterday. When she was born, changing her, and you can remember this from your children, when they're on breast milk, those first bowel movements, you're like, are my kids special?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
did we get lucky? Because the consistency is like, I mean, I touched it. I was like, this is weird. Like, this isn't like poop. What is this? It's like fucking cotton with a little, I don't know, like toothpaste in it, right? And I was like, what is this? And I'm like, I had the smell, and I was like, it doesn't even smell that bad. I mean, it doesn't smell great, but it's not bad. It's like kind of neutral and just weird. But all of that, and then there's no rashes when they're that young. There's no issues when they're that young. They only cry when they're hungry, and as soon as you give them that animal-based single source sustenance that doesn't duress their body and gives them everything they need, they're immediately good. And I started putting that. I was like, it's weird. No, it can't all be that way. Once you start introducing those green and orange and other colored jars, then you realize your child is not that special.
Mm-hmm.
And you can smell it from down the hall or from downstairs, and it's my turn, it's your turn, you're fighting. Oh, I don't want to, whose turn is it to change her? Those were like huge signs to me. And I started thinking like, all right, this is really weird. Then I started thinking like, could it really be the diet that's healing these people? Whether you're Jordan, Michaela Peterson, the different stories you guys touched on earlier, my clients getting off all the prescription meds, the inflammation going away. Is it the diet that's doing that? Or is it the fact that it's the body finally able to do its own thing naturally, but it's not having all these fucking variables coming in constantly of like, what is this? How do we process this? Okay, we got to take the husk off of that. No, we don't need any of that. Like the entire time your digestive system is just going. I attribute it to being like a nightclub worker or a bouncer at a nightclub. When it's just the BS-free MD docs, like it's easy for me. Their money's always good here. Come on in. I don't have to check your IDs. Like y'all are cool. Y'all are always on the list. It's great. But when it's the BSMD docs plus Jake Thomas and his freaking crew of misfits, like God knows what's going to happen. Jake's always got drugs. The girl's always getting fights. People don't have IDs. They pee on the floor. Da, 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 da. We got to call in extra staff. The place gets torn apart. We run out of booze. We have all these problems. Whereas when it's the single source, the 2 docs, it's easy on the place. Zero stress.
Well, you'll still run out of booze, but other than that, we won't pee on the floor.
Hey, but now that it's just y'all,
it's predictable.
I can clean the house. Hey, do you guys mind? I'm going to paint the walls while y'all are in here. No big deal. We're going to do a little maintenance. Like the place can be maintained, upkept, renovated if need be. Hey, do you guys mind working? I know y'all are all off this week. Yeah, sure. We've had such a cush schedule lately because Jake and the Misfits haven't been in here that it's been awesome. We can do all these repairs that we normally haven't been able to do. So it's the lack of stress that single source of sustenance provides in the body is what permits all of those things to take place. All of those changes in the various nervous systems, all those final moments of again, lack of stress allow these natural changes to occur. So it's not medicine. It's not the food. It's not anything miraculous. It's the body finally doing what it's supposed to do. And that, in my opinion, but I'm starting to lean on the side of law or dogma, is that it cannot be done with those other types of diet. Meaning you cannot do this as a vegan, as a vegetarian. You're talking about too many sources, too many variables. And not to mention, it's not just about what they give you, but it's what about what they debit you with, right? So like people talk about the benefits of various micronutrients or anti-inflammatory elements, whether it's pomegranates or antioxidants or XYZ, and spinach is great for this. Well, like, what about the things that they do to you inside, whether it's from oxidation or just toxicity or a disagreement or a lack of compatibility with your digestive system, of which they tell you that very clearly by way of the waste that comes out, the gas that comes out from the top or from the bottom, other signs that are just clearly there. not to mention the amounts that are required for these things to try to meet the same nutrient profiles or amino acid profiles, which of course don't exist in many of those plant foods. So to me, it's not about an opinion. I think it's an inarguable fact.
Well, the
And
more I was going to say, the more I study this, especially this last year, but even over the course of my lifetime with my own issues, because I have lifelong migraines. Um, we put our daughter on uh, she's got celiac disease, and then she went on. We both did a complete gluten-free diet. Actually, I have gluten intolerance. Then I have an autoimmune condition, and then there's patient stuff. And the more I look at it, it's like, okay, well, if you've got this problem, you can't eat nightshades. If you're gluten intolerant, you can't do gluten. If you've got this autoimmune, you shouldn't have these things. And the more I look at it, it's like plants, it's just so complicated. It's like, well, I can have this one, this one, and this one. No, but if this condition, you can have this plant. And I'm like, well, what the frick is up with all of these plants that are such?
Because
they are built to be
Ah,
they are built to be, toxic.
right.
They have no other defense mechanisms, but they're toxins. They're rooted in the ground. They can't run away from you. They don't have claws. They don't have fangs. They don't have wings. They don't have gills or tails to
I
fly
get
and
it
run.
now. Yeah. And so I get that certain plants have these wonderful micronutrient properties that can be beneficial. Like I'm a big fan of blueberries and I eat a ton of them. And I have sort of selected my diet and honed it for me. But for the most part, it's more of a pain in the ass than it's worth. And the older I get and the more I listen to you guys, I'm like, meat is really the most easy to deal with unless you have some people do have a true allergy to certain meats, and I can't eat shellfish. Okay. But for the most part, when you look at all the factors and that the meat is selecting the plant that it's eating, and if it's very basic and it hopefully is not getting fed a bunch of shit like pigs do with all the ground, where I'm going with ground up garbage. But if you get meat that's eating reputable plants that aren't polluted with glyphosates, etc., and they process it, that is the most cleanest form of nutrition.
It's not even that they're eating reputable plants. It's that they're eating what they're supposed to eat. In other words, cows are supposed to eat grass.
I mean, ones that aren't covered in Roundup and bullshit like that.
Right. Yeah. And cows are supposed to eat grass, not corn. Actually, the only thing corn should be made into is vodka and whiskey. Everything else is bullshit. Shouldn't be gasoline. Shouldn't eat it. It's garbage. But what's one of the best descriptions, and I think it was Chafee that brought that up, is that cows with their multiple stomachs,
they're meant to do it.
They can't even digest cellulose, but they eat essentially nothing but cellulose. So how they do that is they have multiple stomachs.
Yeah, triple stomach system.
Yeah.
And then a massive amount of their microbiome that actually breaks down the cellulose into calories. So cows, in essence, are a massive plant detoxification system that then gives us yummy steaks. Yes. And I have noticed since we've gone to grass-fed, non-antibiotic, pure meats, we have a couple vendors that we use. We have one that's our sponsor, one of our sponsors, and they're just absolutely fantastic. I can't believe how much better it tastes. Like, it's just, we had these fillets the other day, and I'm like, you fry it in butter, and it's just like, this is awesome. Like, May's like, what else do you want to eat with that? And I'm like, well, nothing.
I love that you brought this up. So, and I'm glad you brought up the blueberries. And this is where it gets fun. So, I don't know. Y'all would probably be able to tell me, all the MDs. Has there ever been an infant that spat the teat out and refused to drink breast milk?
Yeah, my kid for a while.
Yeah.
But he was colicky and cranky, so he wouldn't drink anything. But that's a jokingly said type of thing.
Yeah, there's that's a bit of a medical can, because there's women that just physically can't nurse. The kids have
no.
That's not what he said. He said the infant. The infant.
Has there ever been an infant said, "Fuck that. I don't want it."
No.
I don't think so. Right. So why does that occur? Well, they instinctively know it's for them. It's good for them. They instinctively know they need it. They have very few things going on in there, but they do know for sure that they need that. The body, the brain more than anything, the brain runs on cholesterol. The brain's made of cholesterol a
Mhm.
lot. So fat, by its innate intrinsic quality, doesn't just satiate the body, it satiates the brain. So when you're talking about the steak with the butter and da 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 da, why that excuse me, why that is so satisfying is because it's removing a lot of the pleasure center mind and is being overridden by the actual satiation of the real mind, I should say, of the subconscious mind. Meaning you don't have to think you like it. You're being fucking told. We love this. Thank you. The body is sending an objective, unbiased message of keep it coming, keep it coming. There's no decision needing to be made. And the problem we run into is this thing
Mm-hmm.
and this thing.
Tongue in your
Because
brain. Yeah.
from here down, everything about this loves the carnivore diet. Why? Because there's no emotion involved in it and there's no pleasure center involved in it. Just like you said, you love your blueberries for the some of the benefits, some of the health benefits. Okay. There are health benefits to blueberries. How much of the love underlined, italicized and capitalized word love, how much of the love for the blueberries is the taste?
Oh, 75%.
Okay. Perfect answer.
No.
Meaning this, I'm not trying to say this is, I am saying this is the best, irrespective of that, which other people will not be able to let go of in the defense of their arguments. That's the problem.
Mhm.
Because, well, it should be pleasurable. I'm not saying this isn't pleasurable. It is. I do this because it's pleasurable. It tastes fantastic. It's wonderful. But you cannot try to squeeze in pleasure in defense of the most optimal form of nutrition. Well, that's boring. It's monotonous. No, it's not. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about what is the absolute most profound way to have the best impact on your health and what's the kind of nutrition. This is it. We live in a world of abundance. You know, we live in a constant perpetual seeking loop cycle to where we need more, we want diversity. But what about when it comes to, if you're trying to truly heal yourself and you don't want to have eczema anymore, you don't want to have psoriasis, you don't want to have celiac disease, you don't want to take fucking Xanax or pills or would you not exhaust all resources to do that? And when someone says, look, all you need to do is eat meat, drink water, and have a lot of salt and like watch what happens. Well, I don't want to do that. I'm going to miss that. Like, you want to keep taking pills? And most people say, yeah, unfortunately they
Yes,
do.
sadly
Right.
they do.
But if you think back to, again, the thing with the breast milk, that's it right there. What is our version of that as adults? And it's going to be carnivore. And the more strict you can do it, like there's circles within the circles of carnivore, right? Like you start
Right.
with animal based. And it's, you know, just as it says, it's animal based and there's still fruits and you're doing kind of the Saladino thing there with fruit and honey and other things, which he's great. It's awesome. Love him. And then you get a little tighter, like maybe with Sean Baker, Dr. Sean Baker. I was actually talking with him a couple days ago, where it's pretty much just meat centric, right? And then you go real tight and you want to call it lion. Like I think the Petersons do that, and I'll be starting that on the first myself, where it's just meat, salt, and water. And what other thing can you do that with out there? You cannot. There is nothing else. Well, people say, well, you can get a lot of these things from this plant. You're going to go through a huge list of ingredients, not to mention the volume of, like, you know how much freaking spinach it would take to get the protein or to get the other thing.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
again, the digestion, like what that's going to do to your body to digest that. Like, look at what the composition of a steak is. I'm using a mouse as a prop, so forgive me. It is what we are. If you doctors right now, if I had a sucking chest wound going on right here and you had to graft me and I said, hey, I got some bovine skin, can you make it work? Yeah. It's going to be hasty, but like, fuck, I'd survive with it. I mean, you use pig hearts in humans for a reason. Like, try to put a banana in a human body. Like, that's not going to work too well, right? Like,
well, we could get very divergent on that, but
I mean, maybe there's a little bit of a way. But like, if I gave you a pig heart and said, I think you can do it pretty well and seamlessly with this one, I think it's the way to go. Whereas, think about what the matter is that you're consuming. It's tissue like we are. It's carbon based like we are. It's flesh and blood and the same, makeup like we are. So when it's received, back to the nightclub bouncer, oh, it's the BS free MD docs. Perfect. Like it's immediately recognized,
Yeah. How do
right?
you?
There's,
I'm going to jump in here
yeah,
because
yeah,
we get that, and sort of you're preaching to the choir on the whole thing. Where
Yeah,
what I want to know is,
but we need this. We need way more preaching because, like, I talk to patients about this, and they look at me and they go, "You're the first person that's ever said this." And I said, "Okay, you're going to do this. Your other doctors are going to freak out. Just
Yep.
don't tell them.
Yeah.
Just when you get off of your blood pressure pills and you're off of your insulin and you're off of all of this other stuff, then you can tell them what you did.
Yep.
But don't tell them before because they're going to freak out and double your statin dose and do all this crazy stuff."
Yes.
what I want to know, because you're coaching people, and obviously this is the one pillar of the 4 that we are now agreeing on, 4, not 3.
Yep.
Because I'm all about sleep, but this one pillar, the nutrition, which I think is the biggest pillar, what you put in your body. How do you? This is where I struggle with family members, patients, friends. When people like, because you did the vegetarian diet, where a bodybuilder, you can be successful at that. People that like the taste of that food are misled biochemically with nutrition advice that plants are better for them, but when taste is a big thing as well, and they're feeling, I won't say not bad, but how do you convey the message that the meat is most bioavailable? Those proteins are like our own body's building blocks. You just have to turn off that pleasure center. That's where I struggle myself in getting people to cross that line and do the not tough love or do the work to say, give it a try, like give up your healthy plants for a while and try the meat based. What do you do for that?
Well, first off, I always start with a money back guarantee. I tell people, if after 30 days you don't feel radically different after what I put you through, what you go through, I don't put you through it. I guarantee you. And I've not refunded anybody because it's inarguable. Seeing is, many people think seeing is believing, right? They need to see it. That's why a lot of my stuff that I post, it's like, it's a lot of body stuff, right? Because people are going to be like, how do I get like that?
Yeah.
Because you have to see it. But feeling is understanding.
30 days, you say?
30 days.
And what if, so I'm like, I'm not the devil's advocate here, which I love to play, but
Please.
for instance, I'm thinking of someone in particular, but they've been vegetarian so long, grew up even not liking a lot of meat, but some, but I would say probably ate shitty based meat, from dino nuggets and all the processed stuff over the time. So it's like, I think it upsets my stomach. Now they're struggling with health issues, wants to change, but just it's struggling crossing that line of, okay, I want to try to eat more meat, but I just can't stand the taste of it. Well, is there a baby steps to take you'd suggest?
I would first want to ask more questions to said person. Oh, meat makes you sick. Da 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 da. Meat makes me this way. Meat plus what? And I ask that because the best place is when people say, no, meat makes me sick or I'm allergic. I'm like, meat plus what? It's very few people, I'd say 1% or less, that have actual allergies to certain beef, especially beef. It's super rare. Many people are self-prescribed allergens. Many. I'm sure y'all have met plenty of them.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, for example, the Chiascaria, the Brazilian style steakhouse. Classic line is, I love those places, but the meat always makes me so tired and it kills me, or I get sick from the meat. What'd you have there? Well, we had like 5 baskets of pão de queijo, the cheesy bread. We had two servings of
Okay,
polenta.
gotcha.
We had three baskets of fried plantains. We had the triple chocolate Brazilian cheesecake and 6 bottles of wine and the meat. Oh, and the meat got you sick, huh?
So you're saying it's what you're eating with it, or what you're seasoning the meat itself, or
so almost
okay.
I could almost guarantee it. And to the point of, like, let's say TNT, nitrogen. Back to those vitals, right? Nitrogen is a vital element. By itself, it's pretty good to go. But if you bring 3 toluene over there and combine it, you got TNT.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the same thing. I call it, it's my theory of contrasting richnesses. Meat by itself, I don't care who you are. Like, it might be 99 of 100. It might be 999 out of 1,000. If I stripped people down and like you took away my pride or my flavor or my pleasure, listen, I'm allergic. Like, if I put a gun to your head, I bet you're not,
Right.
99 out of 100, you strip them down and you just eat this. Dare I say, you're going to feel better. You're going to sleep. Your sleep's going to improve. Whatever inflammation you got is going to go away. Is it difficult maybe to adjust to the flavor or the pleasure sensation?
Right.
Yes. You know why? Because everybody in this fucking country is addicted to sugar.
Yeah.
I've been to the AA meetings. I've been to the NAA. I've been to the addicts. I've been to the gambling, whatever. Where is Sugar Addicts Anonymous? Why is that never discussed? Because that's the crux of it. It's not about, I love plants. You love sugar, dude. It's not about, I love blueberries. You love sugar. And when you, me, any of us realize that we were not built to eat these things so frequently, seasonally, yes, at times and in certain amounts of moderation. And that is probably the one place with Dr. Saladino I don't agree with when he's talking about bathing everything in honey and having like 300, 400 grams of carbohydrates that are not just gross carbohydrates, but like we're talking crazy glycemic indices in foods. I'm like, dude, maybe don't tell people that are overweight to like start with your way. Like they should start, if anything, at the tightest circle and then expand.
Right.
And that's what I would tell
agree with
anyone.
you.
Honestly, if you want to start into carnivore, go lion first and then open up, and you'll be able to realize, like, by introducing things singularly, then you can say who's your cause and effect. That's what people don't get about, well, I don't get what I'm feeling bad, or what's the problem. Well, what'd you eat today?
Yeah.
Well, fucking which one is it? Like, well, let me add a couple more in there. Like, if somebody's like, well, I just had a salad. Well, what was in the salad? Like, you have no idea, right? Whereas when it's like,
one thing,
this is it. And then when I want to introduce something singularly, I can go, okay, let me see how sweet potatoes make me feel. Like Michaela Peterson with her issues with her arthritis and inflammation in her feet and her ankles, she had to dial it back so tight because she was gluten intolerant, like you'd mentioned about yourself, Dr. May, and thinking that, okay, I'll get off the gluten. Nope, that wasn't it. Okay, let me reduce these other things. Maybe it's the nightshades. Nope, maybe it was the acidic elements. Nope, that wasn't it. She had to take it all the way back to, I think it was like a tomato. That was her, or a lemon. I forget. But it was something singular, right? But it wasn't meat. That was the singular item. Like, it is so rare for that to be the issue. But in order to get down to that singularity, you can't do it with another food. You cannot truly deduce what is making you sick because you can't get down to that single source of sustenance unless it's carnivore. You can't do it with avocados. You can't do it with coconuts. You can't do it with spinach. Like, imagine eating spinach every day for 30 days. Like, that'd be brutal. Top and bottom, right?
Tim's face.
Talk about gun control. You need gun control
Tim
to limit the suicides.
Right. But like, you can't really self-diagnose unless you do it that way.
So what you're
carnivore.
So what you're telling me with the spinach is that Popeye was actually full of shit.
Literally.
Yeah, I love it. Exactly. Yeah. I want to touch a little bit on the other pillars, if you wouldn't mind, that you work with your clients on. Obviously, nutrition and what you put in your body and fuel it with is the most important, right? What do you talk when you talk about the air part? What do you focus on with them with the air? I'm sure it doesn't just mean clean air, or does it?
Clean air is a big thing, but more so just the power of your breath, right? And how it is one of the ultimate ways to command your own presence. And it's one of those last single things you've got to hold on to no matter what's going on around you. So I touched on Viktor Frankl earlier. His book talking about his imprisonment during the Holocaust and Nazi concentration camp, and how he realized then the last human freedom he had was how he can choose to see something or perceive something, or how he let it affect him. Like you were talking about your liberation from your sexual abuse in childhood and how you liberated yourself by forgiving, right, the abuser. And him talking about similarly, and why I referenced him in that sense is because he was there getting tortured and having these most, atrocious things being done to him. Yet he said, I'm not going to just let it affect me, or I'm going to choose how I let it affect me. So with the breath, I'm a big fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza and some of his meditations talking about how he's able to teach and show people to re-express their genes by way of being able to manipulate their autonomic nervous systems and control their vagus nerves by way of their breath. The things that we can do with, again, the vitals are remarkable. But people don't believe that, and you can't believe that if you're not consuming the right food. Number one. That's why the nutrition is the biggest part of it, because if your consumption is inadequate or not proper, you're not going to believe it. Number one. Yeah, it's bullshit. It's cockamamie. It's hippie horseshit. You won't feel it. Your body won't be clean enough. You won't be experiencing enough autophagy, because what I'm doing with people is so back at the beginning of cellular development. I'm talking like Krebs cycle, meiosis, mitosis, the origin of the cells, right, within the body. Everything else that teaches exercise, even exercise phys, like it's about the exterior, the superficial, working from the outside in. Like, hey, let's just grip it and rip it and hit the weights. I'm like, no, I want to go back to literally meiosis, mitosis, Krebs cycle, like origin of cells, to where I tell people the physical is a byproduct. Think about what it looked like inside. That's what happens. This becomes a result of that, to where if this is level 10 of cellular development, what's level 0 look like? That's where we need to get. So when you can learn how to breathe properly, mostly being out of your nose and not so much from your mouth, one, learning that you can channel your breath when you're under some types of extreme stress, or like exposing yourself to cold weather or saunas, that it's one of the last things that you've got to be able to hold on to maintain your focus and either keep you somewhere or take you away from there, a la pain. Couple that with the right amounts of water, the right ingredients within your water, a la homemade electrolytes, magnesium, potassium chloride, sodium chloride, and calcium. Add on top of that, again, or bedrocked on that, the nutrition, which is going to improve your sleep, give you the sleep that you've needed. I've, talking recently with a client today about his lack of sleep and still trying to recover and better it. And I was like, okay, so you've been eating right. That's good. So you're on the diet for 2 weeks now. It's great. Everything else is improving. Your mood, it's all changed. Your inflammation. He's like, yeah, but I'm still not sleeping right. I'm like, how's the water intake, bro? Well, I haven't been making the electrolyte mix like you told me. I was like, dude, this is critical. These minerals, these micronutrients are critical to your sleep. I was like, especially the magnesium, dog, especially the potassium. And he's like, well, I've been kind of breaking it up a little bit. I'm like, dude, you can't break it up. You need one serving at least 3 times a day of this stuff. Well, the taste, I'm like, you want it to taste better, or you want to feel better?
Yeah, it's fascinating how, as I've been educating myself over the last couple of years on this, how crucial magnesium is. In med school, it was always focused on sodium, potassium, and the calcium channels. But man, that magnesium is a bigger factor than we even knew. I mean, medicine evolves, but so many people are deficient, how it plays so many parts in illness, even into Alzheimer's and with elderly. I mean, just so many things. And I can see it now looking at people when they give me, they talk about symptoms and things going on. I'm like, dude, you just need some magnesium would fix a lot of that.
I'm so glad you touched on Alzheimer's and anything at the cellular level. And this is why I'm such a believer in this and this diet. Anything, especially at the cellular level. I mean, besides from an extremity being missing, like, which I don't know, maybe this can cure that too. I'm leaning towards that, but like anything at the cellular level is literally a circuit that's closed that should be open, or it's a circuit that's open that should be closed. It's a deficiency of something, or it's an abundance of another. That's a simple fix in theory. Right. Like, it is a simple fix in theory, but like you can never get there without wiping out everything else and clearing the board off, and then having that singularity of sustenance. Because again, it's not the diet that does this, but it's the removal. It is the addition through subtraction. And the problem comes in, May, about how you deal with pleasure and how you deal with whatnot. You simply put it to people and say, look, do you want to live to eat or do you want to eat to live? Right? Hippocrates, like that's y'all's boy. Let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food.
Exactly.
Like it's
Love it.
right there, you know, that's old as hell. It's dirt. It's right there. And yet the signs around us, because of what we watch and what we subscribe to and what we're told to do, because again, we're much more valuable, sick and stupid. Could it be that simple? People don't want to believe it could be that simple, let alone when you were Jake and you were just coming off your world championship run as a vegan and you were proposed to or introduced to the carnivore diet by a friend who certainly doesn't have your accolades in professional athletics nor in education for that matter. I had a lot of freaking ego when my buddy came, was like, dude, you should try this diet. I was like, dude, you should maybe be in your own fucking lane because like I'm the nutrition bro, like back off. But I still read into it because why? I'm curious. I will always be curious about everything. The curiosity of a child is like my thing. Like, you know, I'll try anything twice or 5 times. So when I first started doing this, I was coming from a vegan. I'd been, you know, it's about 14 months as a vegan. So I was going from veganism to carnivore. Wow. Right.
Wow.
And so like I'm thinking about everything that I was coming from, everything that I'd believed in. I was ready to build a business around this and like things like how I'm going to serve clients and how I'd already coached clients. And then I started thinking, boy, I'm glad I didn't, you know, break ground on the brick and mortar for this thing because maybe I was wrong. I'm not saying this is totally right, but I am saying that the absolute dogmatic nutritional science constants and whatnots and dietetics of thinking that they're right is not the case, right? That there are a lot of these rules that are either bendable or definitely breakable. And the problem is not the science is wrong, it's the egos invested in the belief system.
Amen to that.
No, it's 100%.
How do you tell someone that's, you know, I've been coaching vegan clients for 40 years. Hey, man, did you believe that maybe there's another side of this quarter? Nonsense. Like, how do you, you got 40 years invested. How can you tell someone, or how can they begin to think like, fuck, what if I was wrong? Or like, what if he's right? Like, what do you do?
Right. So what's the difference you noticed? You know, look, you're a professional athlete. You get training, you get discipline, all of those things it takes to compete in, you know, fitness and bodybuilding and whatnot. How much of a difference did you notice, and what did you notice specifically going from vegan to carnivore? Like you literally flipped the coin over.
Yeah. Well, number one, the amount of things I was buying or the amount of things it took, right? So back to that example of like what my pantry went from to what it turned into. Right.
Right.
So as a vegan athlete, you need so many powders. You need the protein powders for sure. And then like, okay, what other things am I going to couple that with? Or like what breads or what grains or what carbs am I going to couple that with? So you're talking about a very colorful palette of ingredients, which tastes delicious. Don't get me wrong. Like all these fruits are yummy and the vegetables are good and like they all taste great. But when you realize how much you get out of just this, it's like, wow, that's like, to me, that's remarkable to think like it took all this to make me feel and look a certain way where all along I could just do it this way. I was like, that's kind of cool / not that it's cool, not that it's just cool, but like there's something there. And then I started to think like back to what you mentioned about the butcher and whatnot. As a former abuser of drugs, I preferred high quality shit a lot. Okay.
No kidding.
I like the high quality stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'll still do the stuff that's been stepped on 10 times and crapped out by some poor mule in the Bronx in the middle of nowhere. But like, I'd prefer the Bolivian jungle, the paste in the Bolivian jungle lab. Give me that, the 100% pure goodness. What is a lot of the foods that are coming to us by way that in wrappers or otherwise prepared or have barcodes on them? Unless you're a raw vegan, you are eating a lot of processed shit. Period. Full stop. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do, what you think you don't do. If you are not a raw vegan, you are eating a lot of processed shit. Look at the ingredients of a Beyond Burger or an Impossible Burger. You put that next to like some dog food, there's a lot of similar things there.
Okay, I'm going to
FYI.
save this clip and send it to a family member. Right there.
Just
I
oh,
agree. I would agree
not to
with
mention
you. I
too,
agree with
dogs
you.
are not meant to be overly flatulent all the time. Their food that you're feeding them sucks. Like
Yeah.
dogs love carnivore. FYI. Hello.
But you're right. You just look at the tofu, even what's in
Seitan, Taipan, whatever. Like,
any of it, the Beyond Meat. It's beyond my imagination what's in there. You just look at the ingredients up and down the aisle of the store, and even stuff that's supposed to be chicken, and then they add all these preservatives and
Well,
shit. I'm
and
like, why is
that's
it lasting 4 months
yeah.
in the refrigerator?
But come
Yes.
on,
Yeah.
When you have to make Beyond Meat and make it look like a burger, or make it look like a hot dog, or make it look like
Or to
chicken,
even taste
like I'm not.
there you go.
I'm
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
With
It's
the
like
taste.
it's like
about
you
the
know what?
pleasure.
Right.
You know,
Why don't you just
we're-
eat the meat then? If you're trying to make
exactly.
it taste like,
Guess what? You just admitted that you lost.
Yeah.
Like you just 100% admitted that you
or
lost.
the eggs. Have you seen those?
Yes.
I forget what they're called, but
Yeah.
they're fake eggs, and they sell them
Yeah.
in the egg section, and they try to make them taste. I'm like, well, what's the freaking point? Just eat the freaking eggs,
No,
unless
like
you're truly allergic to
we
eggs,
used
which
to-
is so rare.
We used to feed. You want to talk about? I'm going to use the word. I'm sorry, retarded. We used to feed chickens gem fiberzole
A cholesterol reducing medication.
for low cholesterol eggs.
Yeah.
because the
Well-
eggs were so bad for you. We had to feed the chickens drugs
okay.
that jack their livers up so you could have lower cholesterol eggs.
For entertainment purposes, since we're on it, why do you tell them about? Remember those chips? So
Oh, the Olestra chips.
I don't know
Oh,
if you remember
God, I
those.
don't
The
know.
low
He's too
fat.
young.
They were
This
low
sounds
fat.
great, though.
Yep, too young for this. But they're low fat chips. They were from
Sounds
the
like some Ansel Keys
90s.
shit.
They were from the 90s. They were Lay's.
And they filled them full of Olestra or Olean.
Oh, wait. I do know this.
So you don't. So it makes you not absorb fat. And
Yeah.
And it
Right.
binds it, and you shit
I read
it
about
out.
this either in one of Gary Tubbs's books or
It's-
in
Yeah.
in
So it's like
Atkins's book, I
those
forget.
sugar-free gummy bears. If you look
Uh-huh.
up
Right.
there
No,
on them.
but one of the side effects is anal leakage.
Yeah, and Tim ate a
Great.
bunch of those. Didn't you eat a bag
No,
of those
I didn't.
chips?
I don't think I ate
thought
any
you
of them.
Can you
did.
No,
confirm the
'cause
side effects, Tim?
I'm not big
Yes.
into anal leakage. It's one of my low
I
priority
thought you
items.
Can you
ate-
confirm the side effects?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ate. I thought you ate a bag and you had the
Right.
runs or
No,
something.
because somehow fat was so
So
bad for you,
stupid.
right? I mean, it's just,
yeah.
it's just
Ansel
like,
Keys, man. Ansel Keys.
Anyway,
it was so,
look what we're doing to food.
it was so crazy. Like this is stuff that we've done. And well, yeah, but I read an article, thankfully, and it was talking about, Beyond Burgers and all, and basically that stuff has all just jumped the shark. No one wants it anymore. They've lost 90% of their stock value from its peak, 76% from its open a few years ago. It's all part of the same, I don't know what, cabal where
Yep.
cow farts are going to burn the world down, and
Yeah, monocropping is great.
but the entire Midwest will just plant corn. That makes
Right.
sense. The least nutritious thing you possibly could do.
Yeah.
And then we'll use big giant diesel harvesters to harvest the diesel corn and then put the corn in giant burners powered by natural gas to boil out the alcohol out of the corn to then burn in your car and jack up every single seal in your engine.
I mean, people, realize we use grain and corn to fatten animals.
Yes.
Why would you think the same effect doesn't happen on humans?
Exactly.
People are like, I don't get it. I'm like, what's in your diet? And they're like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you literally, what you just said, like, there's a reason we say corn and soy free for certain, poultry and pork that we try to find, because like, we don't want them to have that. Like, what makes you think you're impervious to the effects of that? But like the barrier, and back to your question about your friend and whatnot, it's like, what is most important to you? Is it your health, or is it a memory you're trying to hold on to from childhood that brings you back to that place where the blueberries touch your spirit, Jake, or the blueberry banana pancakes remind you of your father, and you're trying to do that? Or is it feeling better?
Yeah.
That's why I say happy, healthy, and wealthy, because after 30 days of just working together, don't get me wrong, your nutrition overhaul is a big part of it, but God damn it, the simplicity of it, it's stupid proof. You just have to do this. Now, does that mean it's not easy, or that doesn't mean it's hard? Yeah, it's fucking hard, because we are attacking one of those four vitals, right? Where Like today, I was at the airport flying back. Everywhere around you, you see
Oh.
differently. Everywhere, and even having dinner with my brother and his wife the other night, and baby girl, and seeing, what she's eating and what they're eating. I'm just like, God damn, it's everywhere. It's hard. Yes, it's hard. It's hard because it's everywhere, but that's why it works.
Right.
Because the wool is pulled over your eyes, all of their eyes.
Well, yeah, and then I think of we can go down another wormhole, but I think of, you think of the autoimmune diseases and chronic illnesses of childhood, whether it's mental health stuff, autism, put it in whatever bin you want, right? So then there's we never had all these autoimmune diseases and whatnot until we had, vaccines. So it's the vaccine's fault. And then it's like, well, okay, but look at the diet that we're eating, and then look
Yep.
at the antibiotics we give kids and kill their microbiome because you got an ear infection and you're on antibiotics every 3 months for the first 4 years of your life, or what. I mean, clearly there's a ton of stuff, and until you can reduce it down to one thing, you can't say it's one thing.
Exactly.
But when you look at a developing brain of a child, and you look at the fat content in breast milk, like I've had women bring bottled breast milk in that they had pumped, and it was like heavy cream. I mean, the separation of the fat on it was absolutely staggering.
Yeah, cream line. It's cream line.
Yeah.
It's cream line, cream
It's
top.
100% cream line. And then you go, okay, the baby is eating cream 4, 5, 6, 8 times a day.
Pure HGH.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then the kid gets old enough and it's a vegan family, and then we're going to feed them basically zero fat.
Yeah, I know.
And wonder why their brain is all scrambled and
and tons of sugar.
It's sad.
Like you sit there and you just kind of go, well, why is my son so anxious and he's got poor social skills? Well, maybe because you needed to feed him a crap ton of fat when he was developing,
Yeah.
Like, really?
That's what I'm talking about, cellular level, right? Like, and people thinking like, okay, just treat it with this drug, like superficial. None of that's hitting cellular level, right? And then at the same time, what's the cost of the destruction that's going on in there? Like, I had a client tell me today, he's like, yeah, man, I'm sorry, last few days been a little sick, I recently took some antibiotics. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, dude, I fucking need to know this shit. Like, well, I was feeling this way. I was like, dude, you're going through a little keto flu or like a little bit of withdrawal. I was like, that's the pain, dog. Like, that is the greatest confirmation you could have. When people go through sugar withdrawals, it's amazing, and like even societal withdrawal of like, or environmental withdrawal, I should say, where you start to feel the pressure of like, I need to be out there. Like, no, you need presence. Like, but I want to. Yes, you want to, but this is about purpose, not pleasure. And denying these things to be able to embrace your individuality. This is where you learn intestinal fortitude and self-reliance. Is the greatest thinkers throughout history, Stoics, enlightened minds, theologians for sure. The most respected thought leaders throughout our ages, millennials, have used 3 things to find their way and to advance and elevate consciousness: prolonged fasting, extended treks, and isolation. That's Jesus, Mohammed, Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Mandela. The best of the best. Why would it be any different now? It's not.
Well, because
how do you get there? You can't get there. Basically, what I'm talking about is consciously induced suffering for personal growth.
Yeah, 100%.
People don't want to suffer. Like, oh, you can give me a pill and I can just keep living the way I'm fine. It's easy. Fucking A, it's easy. You're right. But that's why you'll never change.
Yeah,
but that's why you'll never grow.
We talk about that all the time.
That's why
together and with patients. It's
why I left primary care. I mean, I'm kind of doing a little bit of it now, but it's why I left it, because I'm sitting there. Okay, this guy's 75 pounds overweight, and I'm being judged by the insurance companies and by my employer based on whether I give him a whole bunch of drugs for his problem instead of solve his problem. So,
or the patients ask, they look at me and they go, "It's not fair. You're so skinny. It's so easy." And I'm like, "You don't get it. You don't get the work.
You don't live my life."
Yeah. Or whatever it takes, our son just did an Ironman, and people go, "Oh, I'd like to do that, but I don't want to suffer." And we've said
Well, then you're
this-
not going to do an Ironman.
but we, you look at someone and it's sad. It's because it's like we say you pick your pain. So yeah, it's going to be painful and it's going to be hard, and you don't want to do that suffering to have that positive outcome. But you're choosing another option with an even more painful outcome, which is a heart attack in 5 years and not be around for your kids or grandkids, or not being able to walk even because your back and your knees. I mean,
You can't play with your grandkids, that's for sure.
Right. You're choosing your pain. So why wouldn't you choose one that gives you a better outcome? And how do you, I don't know if that's part of when you work with clients, how you get them to change their mindset. I mean, is that part of?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So like, what I tell people, what I teach, or not teach, but like, what's the ultimate goal? It's self-mastery.
Yeah.
Straight up. This isn't about a nutrition plan. The diet is a fucking metaphor.
Right.
To be honest, literally, it's a metaphor. How is it a metaphor? Because it is the ultimate test for you. Again, attacking one of those vitals, and it is the hardest one, I would say, because the air one, okay, restrict your breathing. Good. How far is that going to get you, right? Like you could do that in places you're not in commonplace. The sleep thing, it's an intimate, it's a you thing. You can work at it. There are reps and ways, and there are things you do, but it's still kind of behind closed doors. For the most part, you do that privately. But with food, same thing with water. That's applying as you are. But with food, we're talking about gatherings. Everywhere you go, everything in our lives revolves around food, whether it's a funeral, a wedding, a birth, a this or that, a reason. You just came to New Orleans, you're visiting your family and friends, this is fine. And it's going to get served to you by your grandmother with a smile, right? No matter how good or bad or whatever you think about it is. It's the most omnipresent of the rest of them because it's the most communal of the rest of them. The other ones can all be privatized.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot escape the food one. So you literally have to wear it. The discipline that's required to do that, again, the diet is the metaphor. Yes, there is direct benefit that's taking place from it, but the discipline that's required, you're talking about the ultimate fucking test. So as far as in building that self-reliance, that autonomy, because that's what I'm trying to push people to understand, like to become an autonomous freaking Terminator. But you cannot do that without trying to find these ways to make yourself suffer. So if you can't go on this extended trek, if you can't do this prolonged fast, if you can't find your isolation, and you can't work out because you just had a hip replacement 10 days ago, I know you got to fucking eat. So I'm going to put you through the ultimate test right where you're sitting. You can't lift or do anything? Perfect. I know you have to eat so you can do this. You can't go there. You can't do this? Perfect. You're on a budget? Even better. Because this is way less expensive than any of the shit you're trying to buy, right? Well, Jake, how do you mean? Because I've done it in New York City. I've lived for less than $25 a week as a carnivore in New York. So come at me with your problems about money.
So does that include field dressing and hunting bums?
Oh my god.
No, they'd be too lean.
No, but
that's a question. Our son, who we were pushing him, and he's like, man, food. I mean, right now the price of food has gone up everywhere. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he's like, the good food. I mean, it's expensive to buy good quality meat for sure. But lately he's like, the crap meat now is approaching the cost of the good stuff because he's like, it's $1 more and I get the grass fed. So why am I going to buy shit? I'll just
because
buy
even and I've done it with $3.99 a pound ground beef from Walmart to prove the point. Even the shittiest ground beef is better than the processed garbage.
No, actually, that's a really good statement.
Like I'll eat the shittiest, lowest hot dogs in the world all day long, and I will be healthier. I'll have the labs to back it up, guaranteed. Now,
you
what
got
does
me
that
at
mean?
hot dogs. I'm sorry.
Well, look, if we're talking about morality or like again pleasure or taste or whatever, that's a different argument. But I'm saying like you want to talk about economics. There are no allergic children in poor families.
Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, I can't eat that, Dad. I'm allergic to whatever. Well, you're not going to fucking eat tonight then, bro.
Isn't that funny how we grew up that way.
Yeah,
it was
right,
like you ate what was on your plate.
But I did it in New York for less than $25 a week.
Yeah.
Shopping at Whole Foods, Columbus Circle.
And you think people feel better even if they're eating a carnivore-based diet that's maybe not the highest quality meat compared to eating expensive shishi Whole Foods plants?
You can feel
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
doing this than you
Okay.
can with these other things. Now, I think that's going to be interpreted subjectively, or can be interpreted
Right.
subjectively,
Right.
right? Of course, but I think it's hard to kind of gauge that feeling, because there's going to be a lot of ego invested in the feeling of
Right.
one person versus the another. Like if someone's like, I'm really into this, my relationship with the plants, like how do you quantify that?
Yeah.
That's very difficult. But as far as in which you can for certain quantify would be lab work with people. And I know that it's not going to be possible for them to have the adequate sources of creatinine
Mm-hmm.
from these other things. They're what's the MPC, or the protein number? I'm trying to think of the protein coefficient.
Albumin?
CRP, the something reactive protein.
Yes.
I get
C-reactive protein. Mm-hmm.
C-reactive protein coefficient. So when that is very low, you know how little the inflammation is, right?
Right.
Like, so mine is historically for the last few labs been either 0.01 or like barely 0.1, but super, super low, be out of range low, right? Guarantee the CRP and anyone that's on a plant-based diet, I bet you it's above like 5.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, it's
I haven't paid attention
yeah.
to that, but that's okay.
That
I still
that number alone, that number alone.
I was thinking about this for the last week. It was fascinating that you brought it up. This whole business of none of us are born vegan. So why would you want to take that? Like,
And now people are still trying to feed plant-based formula to infants. I think it's fucking sacrilege.
it's insane.
That
People have
is
tried to
child abuse. Honestly,
people have tried to
Yeah.
do
Their developing
vegan
brain.
cat food, and then their cat dies 4 months later.
Yeah, cat kills the person.
It kills the cat.
And
It's
it
like
kills
it's
the
like hello.
owner.
It's literally a little lion. It's
Yeah.
literally a little lion.
Yes, we have a
right?
little
And-
lion in our house, a little Simba. I could just see the headlines. Owner dies by bleeding slowly out of cat scratches due to cat being fed
Yeah,
plant-based diet.
No,
Oh,
like
gosh.
it's just yeah. I mean, the thing is
But
a
that's
predator.
child abuse to feed an infant plant-based formula. I mean, right from the part of their developing brain, their immune system. No, that's
Yeah,
just
but those
insanity.
look, it won't take long, and those people will have selected themselves 100% out of the.
Right.
Out of, look,
I've sat on the panels with other dietary practitioners, and I find it difficult for other persons to hear my argument much more so than it is for me to hear theirs. Why is that? I don't know. Meaning, like,
Yeah.
I've sat on a panel next to a vegan, next to a vegetarian, and boy, I am the pariah real quick. Why? Like, hey, I'm not here to argue with you. I'm not here to tell you like fuck off, or I'm not here to scorn you. But they immediately like, I mean, the finger pointing starts real fast, and I'm just like, hey, I'm just trying to say that this single source sustenance is like,
yeah, but
Yeah.
but you see, like we know people that are vegan, and it's the animal killing part. All right,
Mm.
so it's like, how can we have Fifi the dog that we love?
do they
so
drive
much?
cars that have leather seats?
Right. No,
These
I know. No, but it gets worse than that. And so we would never eat Fifi. Why should we eat Bessie the cow? And I'm like, well, because you're humans and we're the top of the food chain, and that's kind of how food chains work. Ask a shark why it
Because
eats.
a lion would eat you if you were in his
Right. So
territory.
I mean, to me,
That's
it's
why.
really simple. But if you want to talk about, I love how Ted Nugent puts this. He says, you want to talk about killing animals. Nothing kills animals like agriculture.
Yep.
He goes, how come there's all these hawks swirling behind a cultivator? Because it's digging up all the mice and all the rodents, and it's feeding time for the hawks.
Yep.
And then, you had to chop down the forest for
To
your
do that.
agriculture.
Yeah.
To do
So
that.
then where do all the animals go? That's right, they die. So this whole concept of
Protecting the animals.
Now, I get it. Corporate farming is super crazy, unbelievably inhumane in probably most circumstances. So I understand that argument. I don't have a problem with that argument. But just because corporate farming may have gotten corrupted doesn't mean that eating meat is bad. It's just like saying, just because the CDC has been corrupted, or the NIH, or just because the COVID vaccine is complete horseshit.
The AHA.
Right?
Yes.
Does it mean that all vaccines are the same? Well, of course not. Like everything is nuanced, and like it's just two things can be true at the same time. Corporate farms can be like satanic, and meat can be the best thing for you.
Yep.
Those two things are possible.
I think it's man, we're just dealing with a lot of pride out there. We've got so many people invested in a multitude of ventures where it's never been about our best interests, right? Like you look at not a single food on television, on American television advertised. You want health advice? Don't eat anything you see advertised on TV.
It's drugs. That's all you see.
There's
advertised
a
on
start
TV.
point.
It's drugs
Really?
and burgers.
Really, Jake? Anything? Did I fucking stutter? anything advertised on American television, start there. Or when someone says to me, dude, really? All meat? Is that healthy? And I'm like, the person I'm like, what are you at? What? If I told you to step in front of a car right now and it was good for your health, looking at you and looking at me, you should probably fucking listen to me. Right? Like it shouldn't matter what I'm telling you. Like, well, can you show me some more evidence behind that? I'm right in front of you. What more evidence do you need? What support do you need? Who you want they to tell you? You want it to come from them? Like what do you want to hear from me? Like people are so brainwashed. Ultimately, I know I said self-mastery, it's about unplugging. And I used and referenced the movie The Matrix a lot because that's what we're up against. That movie has nothing to do with computers. It has to do with mindless adherence to a system, to a Big Brother, to Overwatch, right? Without cause, without hesitation. And that's what most people do. You want to feel shitty? Eat this poison they're feeding you. Literally. Eat these foods that I'm telling you, read these books, do these habits, change your life. Period. End of story. But as long as you subscribe to a slave diet, which is what the government is feeding you, which is what the government is promoting to you, which is what the world is wanting you to be like, which is what your friends are doing, what their friends are doing, Matrix, you're all plugged in and you're going to still be a slave. You will feel like a slave. You will continue to get sick because the food they're feeding you is making you sick. And then the medicine they're trying to make you to take is making you sicker. And it is a continuous, perpetual feedback loop of bullshit to where it's just money going out of your pocket, money going into theirs. Your health is never actually improving. It's just further and further deteriorating. I mean, 90% of the diseases, health and dietarily related diseases that exist today didn't occur or exist 100 years ago.
Exactly.
Neither did 90% of the foods we have now.
What?
Tell me that's not coincidence.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What a perfect place to put a bow on this conversation. I mean, this has just been absolutely outstanding.
Wow. So when someone wants to work with you, and I'm thinking a lot of things, but do you focus mostly on the diet? You focus on those 4 pillars you're talking about? Is there anything else?
The diet's almost an automatic because whether you're trying to gain weight, lose weight, cure disease, get over depression, whatever, we got to dial it back to that singularity first off. So do a big review, like how are you eating? How are you feeling? What's going on? What's most important to you? Like to me, the psychology of it is just as important. And for many people, just to be heard has so much value, because that's just what it is. Like, man, nobody's actually ever listened to me or asked me what I want or asked me what I need. It's a huge first step. And just by clearing the air on that and setting the tone, it's like, all right, now we know where to go. Still, for most people, that first challenge is the nutrition because, again, it's a hard and tall ask because most people don't want to do it. Well, that's not what I came here for. I know. Oh, I know. Well, dude, that doesn't apply to me, right? Oh, I know. You're going to fight it kicking and screaming right back to the Matrix. They will defend this system violently if necessary. Because I'm asking you to do something that's going to go against the very grain of your fiber, your belief system, maybe even your religious beliefs, and someone asked me that the other day. How do you respond to people when they say it's against their religion to do that? I'm like, is that a choice? Or is that a law? Or is that a belief?
Right.
Faith goes a long way. But if, there's very few people in the world that if a gun was put to their head, they'd be willing to die for their faiths. I know some of them. I've seen them. And I've seen what they've done for theirs. And that's the real fucking deal right there. But I'd say 99.9% repeating of the people that I know that are faith having dietary restrictors wouldn't die for their faiths. So what's your health worth to you in that sense? Meaning, like, you know, I know plenty of people that abstain from shellfish and certain faiths, or abstain from pork, but then they have loose kind of abstinence. Well, those don't count. This is all bullshit. You know, you're pleasure seeking or pleasure perpetuating to nickel and dime which portions you want to faction off there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and what do you got to lose for 1 month? That's the key. 1 month that can completely change
30 days.
your
30
life.
days. You give me 30 days, you give me an honest run in 30 days, and I'll beat you. But it's hard. Like I said, you know, I have people that come in and it takes months to hit those 30 days, or they get like 27. And then, you know, like I got to text a buddy of mine here in a minute because we were talking yesterday, and he's like, yeah, dude, it's been great. I've been feeling, he's lost like 20 pounds already. No calorie counting, no macro knowledge whatsoever, eating as much as he wants, totally in abundance, lost 20 pounds, feeling better, mental energy, depression going away. But yesterday he was like, yeah, man, it's so cool. We were at this party the other day, and he's like, I had a couple of beers. I don't say anything at the time, but I'm like, hey, dude, so you told me yesterday about those beers you had. Like, you want to talk about that? Because, you know, you're about the day 25, but you know the rules. So what's up? It's hard. It's hard. But like I said, 30 days radically changed. Or I guarantee you radically changed. You'll never feel better, look better, have more self-worth, or money back. And nobody's gotten money back yet. So
where can people find you?
lifelikejake.com. You can read about me there. A lot of the podcasts that I've been on have been on there too. Links to the YouTube channel. My blog posts are also on there. And you can join or fill out the application to come onto the program. And then most of my like social and personal interactions all through Instagram. Also, same thing, Life Like Jake.
Perfect. I'm going to put those in our show notes. I will also friend you and tag you on our Instagram.
Yeah, please do.
And send all that in. And when people message you, do they work one-on-one with you, or do you have other assistants?
Oh, it's me. It's me that responds.
I always ask that because sometimes people join a program and unknowingly they think they're going to get a head person, and then they're
it's me.
a different trainer. So that's
it's me that answers.
Yeah, and then they think they're getting you, and they get the 300-pounder with the cigarette hanging out the side of their mouth.
No, it's me. I respond to people a lot of times. I respond with voice memos right there on IG. Sometimes I call them right there on Instagram. I'll send video responses on Instagram, and then it is me that you're working with. It's me that you're working with every week. It's me that you see every day. And a lot of the people that I respond to on Instagram are like, wow, dude, this is so cool. You actually sent a voice memo, or you actually sent a video, or you actually try to call me. I'm like, yeah. And guess what? I'm going to fucking hunt you down now, because a lot of people talk a lot of shit. You know, the amount of people that I've had cry, men and women, cry to me, either through voice or video, or just, you know, I can read their messages, talk about horribly sensitive information about wanting to take their own lives, leave their families, leave their wives, leave their husbands, walk away from their children, da 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 da. And I say, okay, it's time to get to work. Let's do this. What are you prepared to do? I'm ready to go right now, da 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 da. And then they go dark. You know, there's a lot of people with a lot of pain, a lot of hurt out there that I don't want to say need the persistent follow, or, you know, me checking up on them, but like I do it. So like, if you reach out to me and you're not willing to work, stand by to get wrangled, because I'm going to come after you.
The David Goggins of
I love it. Oh my, this has been a great time this afternoon talking with you. Oh my gosh.
Too.
I mean,
thank you.
Wonderful stuff. Your story, I love the ending. I think, you know, from where you've come and how you've taken what we are supposed to do, I believe, is take our shitty experiences that we all go through, because we all do in life, and use that to bring up other people and teach them and help them in their journey. I mean, when you're in the shithole of life, you're like, what is the purpose of this? This sucks. There's no purpose. Get me out of it. But, you know, it's just refreshing for you to share where you came through, your valleys, your struggles, because it's a message of hope and what you're doing to help people today. And I just hope and pray that from now on, it's just a continued upward ascent, and you stay at that top of Mount Everest peak, and you don't have any more horrible slides down the mountain. And you can just help wrangle other people up Mount Everest too, you know?
That's it right there.
Exactly.
It's literally thank y'all. And it's literally trying to stay there, right? I'm not trying to go anywhere else. I'm trying to stay, right? Stay with my presence to just cultivate more and more and more good feeling, positivity, high vibration, and legitimacy of myself, my own self-worth and wholesomeness. And then, like you said, I am trying to pull people up here. You know, to me, it was developing the man I always needed in my life, to become the man I always needed in my life, but never had. So I had to become. I could not just appear to be. And then to just give him and his ways away to the world. So I'm trying to do exactly that. What it took me to get here, who I was before and who I am now, and trying to share that with as many people as I can. So I'm not trying to say, hey, I'm right, but more so like, guys, look what I found. Check this shit out. This is so amazing.
I did it. You
That's
did
my
it the
message.
hard way on your own, and I'm here to help you so you don't have to be alone. And what a gift that is. And that's amazing. That's the purpose of life. And I love it. So thanks for being with us.
Pleasure.
It's no secret that medicine is a bit uptight. That's why Tim and I created BS Free MD, to mix things up a little and have fun in the process. Besides, we are having these exact same discussions all the time, so we thought we might as well invite everyone to the party. If you really like us, you can get plenty more and maybe see one of Tim's cool tattoos on our Instagram or Facebook pages at BS Free MD. See you next time.
But we try to keep BS Free MD as raw and real as possible. We can't be held responsible for any medical decisions or discussions had as a result of what you've heard on the show. We know, bummer. But the truth is, we really do care about your questions. So feel free to reach out to us by email at doc@bsfreemd.com.